I'm in the house venting out the stove. This is not on an exterior wall. All the YouTube videos I could search for conveniently had their ovens and ranges on an exterior wall. Super easy to vent out of the house. Not in this case. I gotta take it from here, up into the ceiling here, and inside here, through the dining room, out that exterior wall. And it should spit out somewhere roughly right in there. Now in this case, my drywall skill is pretty low. Woodwork and flooring skill, quite a bit higher. So we're gonna go that route. All right, so here we are upstairs. Underneath my feet is the floor joist to be uncovered roughly to about here, which is gonna go there to that exterior wall.
So the idea here is pretty simple. I just want to pull up all of these molding pieces, get the floor pulled up, and cut myself an access hole in the subfloor that exposes the void between the joists and the ceiling below. That way I can get a hole saw and a drill in there and be able to drill straight out through the exterior wall, give myself a place to work, more importantly, and then put in that outside vent.
Luxury vinyl plank flooring exposed. Let's pull it up from that seam back. So here's an interesting little trick when you are first trying to pull up the very first edges of the wood of the plank flooring, and you're having a hard time getting in here to grab that to lift it up. Take a very small screw and run way back in the corner or edge, wherever. That'll be hidden by the final molding process. And with your bar, lift that up.
Okay, that was something. I've marked out where I'm going to do an access port. And right in here, there's a piece of blocking in between the joists to support the edge of this piece of wood right here. We're going to cut that out. Is it going to work? Don't know. Is it working so far? Ish.
The same idea exists here. I'm just cutting open an access port to get a hole saw and a drill in there to cut a hole through that piece of blocking that goes between the joists. Arguably, this piece of blocking right here was the whole reason why I even thought to cut up the floor in the first place and pull the floor back as far as I did. Once I get this hole open, now I've got a straight shot from the kitchen all the way to the exterior wall. I should also note that it's actually this little spot right here in conjunction with the awkward turn I had to make at the top of the kitchen wall as to why I opted to go with 4-inch pipe instead of the 6-inch. Really didn't want to be digging a 6-inch hole through this small piece of blocking here in a place that's needing to stay structurally sound. And I also didn't want to be knocking out joists and blocks and pieces from where it connects to a load-bearing wall just so I could get an extra piece of pipe brought around a corner at the kitchen ceiling. So that's why we went with 4.
So the whole reason we ever went to all of this trouble of pulling up the flooring back to here, cutting an access port, was to cut a 4-inch hole in that piece of blocking. Otherwise, you wouldn't have any access unless you took the drywall off below. I'm just not doing that.
So this section right here, we're cutting open the exterior access port. I'm paying special attention to make sure that I'm breaking on top of 2 joists so that when everything starts to go back together, we'll put some liquid nails on the wood, screw it back in place, and ensure that we don't wind up with any squeaky or weak spots in the floor in the future.
All right, man. We got a hole. Got through the subfloor. We've got the tar paper up. We've got access. And I cannot stress this enough. This is not cotton candy. It is also not succulent house meat. Internet memes. Okay, so is a 4-inch pipe, a 4-inch duct, big enough to send this up to 400 CFM vent hood air outside the house? Maybe not, I don't know, but I'm pretty sure that the maximum speed of this blower matches the minimum size needed for that. So we're gonna call that good enough. It's because that's the space I'm limited to. Sorry, deal with it. There's reasons for that. Carry on. I've got my pieces of 4-inch ducting that I've just now picked up. I've got a 6-to-4 reducer to come straight out of the vent hood into a 4-inch pipe and take it up and out of the house. Got some screws, put the wood back with. Got some OSI exterior to seal some stuff up with. An elbow, one elbow only. Just to come up to the wall, into the joists, and outside the house. Flashing tape for the J-box that the vent is going to be mounted to. An extra elbow because sometimes these things bust apart, screw up. I'd rather have it and not need it, and need it and not have it. I'm going to tape my seams after I screw them together for durability. 4 1/4 inch hole saw so that it'll slide in there real easily. A J block so I can mount to the vinyl siding and have it flashed properly. Some foam for the inside just above the top plate of the bottom wall so we can seal up that hole, that penetration, and a little extra tape because why not? And coffee.
This is the kind of stuff that you only screw up one good time. So I'm being extra cautious to make sure that I am lined up the way that I want to be lined up, and I'm going through as straight as possible. Yeah, I should have probably been using my electric drill, not this battery-powered drill. Might have went a little easier for me instead of this drill wanting to stall out every once in a bit. It still made it through without much hesitation, so not that big of a deal. But the important thing is that you don't actually bust through all of your vinyl at this point. In a moment, I'm going to get to the end of this cut, clear the plug. I'm going to go outside, find a drill hole that I put through the center, and then I'm going to come back in reverse, by the way, carefully chew through the vinyl siding without ripping it or damaging it. Add in the factor that it's pretty cold outside right now, which makes vinyl siding just a titch more brittle than normal. So I've gotten to the end of my cut through the wood. I've cleared the plug, and right there is that arbor hole, that very center drill hole. So I'm going to take a 1/4 inch drill bit and go right through that hole, through the vinyl siding, go outside, and there is my center mark to go back in towards the inside in reverse slowly. I know I already said it, but again, when you're going back through vinyl siding, be sure to run your bit in reverse so that you can slowly chew your way through the vinyl without snapping it, breaking it, or causing cracks. In particular, if you've got older vinyl siding, and in this case, it's about 35 years old, so we're going to not mess this up. You go in reverse, chew through the vinyl, snip away any excess, and then press on through any remaining wood you have. And in this case was minimal.
We've cut back the siding. We've put the inside portion of the J-box to the exterior sheathing. I've put zip tape around the outside edges of that, bottom sides and then top. Now we just got to put this siding back and then put the outside portion of the J-box on, and the actual exhaust vent itself is ready to go in place. But first I'm going to be putting the ducting inside the ceiling so we can get that all in place and then connect this guy very last. Okay, this is possibly a useless step, but if it's preventative, in my eyes it's not useless, especially when it's inexpensive. These snap together ductings sometimes can be prone to wanting to pop apart under even just the slightest bit of stress. They've got small teeth on the inside that seem to prevent that, or at least they're manufactured that's supposed to prevent that. Well, you know, I don't like trusting that all the time. This stuff is inexpensive. It's a foil tape, a flex tape anyway. We're wrapping around that seam on the ends. I did it on this end. I'm going to do it on the other one just now. just to make sure that when we get to squeezing it through the hole and pushing it in there and putting, you know, a fitting on the end of this and everything, that seam doesn't want to pop. Because when it pops, mark my words, it'll be right when I've already got everything buried inside the joists and everything, you know, and then it's all got to come out and be put back together. So no, we're not doing that. We're going to tape it, we're going to call it good, and know that it's not going anywhere. So I hesitated about making this particular tip because it just seems like kind of inherent or common sense. But I've seen it plenty of times enough to say maybe I ought to show you what I'm talking about. But the air is being blown from inside the house, traveling through the duct this way towards the outside. And when it comes into contact with these crimps, they need to be on the inside of the next piece. So can you see that? When I put these together, the air will flow past that crimped section seamlessly into this section and on out the pipe. If I were to flip that around, the air would want to try to squeeze its way out through that seam, going out those little crimps. So your crimps need to face in the direction of the flow of water, air, whatever. So that way it's a seamless transition. All right, Bob, you want to tell everybody what we did? All right, she's in action. She's pulling. I can smell the food cooking, actually. There we go. She's in. She's working. We're cooking. All right, Bob, you want to say bye? Say bye-bye.
Say bye-bye. Bye-bye, Bobby.
We'll see y'all on the next go-around. I think my favorite part is that it works.
That's a good part.
So
yeah.
it's a relatively good plus.